Okay, so we've had a lot of practice in identifying sentences as either correct or incorrect in structure, but not so much practice in how to fix sentences that are incorrect in structure. So let's give a little try. The bold sentences from the previous type of practice quiz are here. They're all wrong, okay? And so let's have a look at how to fix them, okay? So let's remind ourselves. In the first sentence, we have one verb, two verbs, three verbs, okay? And in terms of connectors, we have one, two, and three. Okay, so there are three verbs and three connectors. As you know, that's wrong. And in this case, we probably have to add another verb, four verbs and three connectors. Notice here, there's a when at the beginning of the sentence, okay? And then they have they and then studying. ING is not a verb by itself. So if we just change that to the past, right? When they studied in high school, or when they were studying in high school, then we would have four verbs and three connectors, and the sentence would be fine. So look out for verb errors sometimes if you're fixing sentence structure. In the next sentence, we have an obvious mistake. We have a but at the beginning of a sentence. Remember, for formal writing, and, but, or, so doesn't really work. It's considered a sentence mistake, a sentence fragment. So the easy way to fix that is to replace it with something like however, right? With a comma. Let me write it in here so you can see. Yeah? However, right? Just comma. However is a non-connecting word. It's fine now. And if we just look at the rest, we have one verb there, two verbs there, three verbs, and then we have here's a connector and here's a connector. So three verbs, two connectors. That's fine when we don't have but, however, instead. So look out for that, and, but, or, so. Don't start a sentence with those. Put in a non-connecting word instead, or you could connect it to the previous sentence if it's not too long, but in this case, we'll just replace it with however. Okay, let's go down, skip a few sentences. When work. Okay, so start with that sentence. So we have one verb is, second verb is, find seems to be a verb, and then appears. So there are four verbs. In terms of connectors, at the beginning we have when, until is a connector. So there are four verbs and two connectors. That's a problem. It sounds like we probably need another to do something here. And notice that these two verbs, there is a tendency for students find. So we have two verbs here, but nothing really to join them, or in this case, I think the problem is find. I mean, we should probably put an infinitive there. There's a tendency for students to find an excuse. And that means then that this is no longer a verb that we count, and then we have one, two, three verbs and two connectors. So by, when you see a problem with sentence structure, it can be sometimes a problem with the verb, right? A verb mistake. The next sentence is highlighted, so let's check that out. And we've got one verb, two verbs. Let's see, follow is not a verb because of the two. Is here, that's three verbs, and avoid, to avoid is not a verb that we count. So there are three verbs, and then I see a connector, right? Any question word that's not a question, like why, is a connector. So that's three verbs, one connector. Remember, then is not a connector, okay? So we've got three verbs, one connector. And when I look again, I see that it is important, it's easier. So these are two verbs without any connecting word. And you notice there's a comma here. before the subject. This is a common mistake, right? We call it a run-on sentence or a comma splice. Look out for commas when you're writing, because sometimes it means that, in fact, you're starting a new sentence and there's no connector. So the easy way to fix that is just to put a full stop and then a capital I, right? And start a new sentence. And then in the previous sentence, it's 2 verbs, 1 connector. And then in this sentence, it's 1 verb, no connector. That's one way to fix a comma splice or a run-on sentence. It's just to put a full stop when you have a subject-verb like that. Okay, and let's look at the last sentence in bold. So despite text messages, okay, So can distract is 1 verb. Must learn is another verb. And then can do. We have examples of modal verbs. There are 2 verbs that count as 1, right? Can distract, must learn, can do. So that's 3 verbs. And then when I look at connecting words, despite at the beginning is not a connecting word, so we don't count that. Okay. And keep on going. The only connecting word I can really see is so that. That's 3 verbs and 1 connector, right? That's a problem. And of course the problem relates to despite. We can't put despite with a subject and verb. Okay, it only goes with a noun. It's a non-connecting word. So you could just replace it with something like although, right? Which is a connecting word. Although text messages or social media posts can often distract them, yeah? So if we put although instead of despite, then we have 3 verbs and 2 connectors. So I hope that has helped you to think about how you can fix sentence mistakes once you identify incorrect sentence structure. And in the last test or quiz that you're going to do in this learning sequence, in addition to identifying this incorrect sentence structure, you'll also have to try to fix them. So hope this helped. Good luck.